this article here. Newly deciphered manuscript is the oldest written record of Jesus' childhood. Extraordinary. A newly deciphered manuscript dating back more than 1600 years has been identified as the earliest known account of Jesus Christ's childhood. The manuscript, written in papyrus in either the 5th or 5th century, has been stored at a library in Hamburg, Germany for decades and was long believed to be an insignificant document. That's really important there. Remember now, I'm going to come back to the 4th and 5th century that they stated in this article. Let's finish off the sentence real quick. However, two experts have now decoded the text, say that it is the earliest surviving copy of the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. But now what's really interesting about that is, according to the article, this is the oldest they have, and it was written around the 4th and 5th century. Now, CE, let me be correct, and we all know about Jesus' born being around AD, 0 through 33, about around to his death. But this manuscript is the oldest that's surviving one, and that's 4th, 5th century, 500 years after Jesus' life and travels and endeavors. So I just want to make sure that I point that out. That's really important that it was dated all the way 500 years after his death, but we're going to creep more into that too. So let's get right back into that article. The papyrus fragment is the extraordinary interest of researchers at Josberg, a theological lecturer and one of the two men who deciphered the document, declared in a press release. It was thought to be part of an everyday document such as a private letter or a shopping list. A shopping list. Like, even they didn't know what they had. That's just crazy. That just points you out to like what stuff can be hidden or even thrown away, that we don't know the significance of it. But let's continue. Because the handwriting seemed clumsy, the expert explained. We first noted the word Jesus in the text. Then, by comparing it with numerous other digitized papyri, we deciphered it letter by letter and quickly realized that it could be of everyday importance. So right here, you're seeing a picture of the papyrus manuscript, which had been stored at a library in Hamburg, Germany. So I just want to show you all that. And what's written on this, because now this is where we get to the juicy part of this article. So I hope you stayed on, because now let's look into this right here. The piece of papyrus contains of 13 lines in Greek letters and originates from the late antique Egypt, which was a Christian society at the time. Again, ladies and gentlemen, 13 lines in Greek. And remember, this is the oldest written of the Gospel of Thomas. And before we go any further, a lot of people may not know about the Gospel of Thomas. So let's look into the Oxford and let's what they say about the Gospel of Thomas, as I'll show you here. Called Infancy Gospel of Thomas, IGT, or Pedica, is an apocryphal document that narrates episodes from Jesus' youth, from the age of 5 up until his 12th year, with the exception of the temple narrative based on Luke 2:41 through 52. The episodes are not found in the New Testament, while the deeds attributed to the youthful Jesus, such as healing, sometimes foreshadow those of the adult Jesus. They also include a number of curses and punishment miracles where Jesus kills or harms those who thwart him. So I know that's gonna throw away a lot of people, but you gotta remember this is the oldest written down accords of this. So yes, it is going to be part of the apocrypha. I do want to point that out because I know some people are going to throw that in there. They're like, oh, it's not canon. It's not canon. But we do have these written down, and especially in Greek. So let's just continue here with the article. The manuscript describes the beginning of the vivification of the sparrows, a story from Jesus' childhood in which he turns 12 clay sparrows into live birds. According to the text, Jesus was playing beside a rushing stream where he molded the sparrows from soft clay. When rebuked by his father Joseph, the 5-year-old Jesus clapped his hands and brought the figure to life. So now, as we get into this, we're seeing all the deeds, and yes, in the apocrypha, and actually showing, if you read the Testament, about Jesus doing some killing and stuff like that. So a lot of people are not going to like that too. But what I want to point out right here is, why was this written in Greek? That's my thing right here. And then this article is going to point that out to you right here. So let's get more into it. However, the Apocrypha text was not officially included in the Bible, as some earlier Christian writers were doubtful of its accuracy, as I explained earlier about that. The Infancy Gospel of Thomas is believed to have been first written down during the 2nd century. However, until now, Codex from the 11th century was the oldest known Greek version of the text. So they actually had an 11th century, 6-7 years after this. And now we're finding fragments that are way older than the ones we already had. And it's still in Greek. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I thought this stuff was supposed to be written in Hebrew, but it's in Greek? I mean, come on. That should just tell people something. But let's continue here. Our findings of this late antiquity Greek copy of the work confirm the current assessment that the Infancy Gospel, according to Thomas, was originally written in Greek. Gabriel Nocte Macedo, the other expert who helped decode the papyrus fragments, said, and now this goes back to a video that I made about the Septuagint. And you get a lot of people that put up her eyebrow, like, what's a Septuagint? And this is an excessive video. It's one of my biggest videos that I made. And I don't care what any Bible that you've been reading, other version, you don't get any of your Bibles, King James, the Latinas Vulgate, any of those Bibles, you don't get them into the Greek Septuagint, LXX, ladies and gentlemen. And if you watch my video, I went into a deep dive into how this Bible came to be, with the letters of Orestes, with Ptolemy II grabbing 70 elders from the Levites and giving them gifts and money so they can write down their Old Testament, and so that the Greeks can have it in their language. And if you know anything about the Levites, they would have died. Listen to me clearly. They would have died before giving it to the Gentiles. I mean, like, again, I'm going to probably show a clip at the end, but if you watch my video without a shadow of a doubt, I showed you that the letter Orestes were pseudo, and that the Greek Septuagint was pseudo too. But the interesting is that all your Bibles that we have today used the Greek Septuagint. Even the King James Version, ladies and gentlemen, that is used today around the world from numerous people, used the Greek Septuagint to get their Bibles. The Apocrypha, the King James, all of them. Show all of them start their lineage from the Greek Septuagint, which again, I showed in my video was pseudo, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to get that across, but let's finish off this article. We'll talk more about that. The newly deciphered papyrus fragment predates the document by an astonishing 600 years. Like I said, they had one in the 11th century, which they thought was the oldest. But now they're finding out that this is the oldest and first written in Greek. Our findings of this late antique Greek copy of the work confirmed the current assessment that the Infancy Gospel, according to Thomas, was originally written in Greek. Both Makeda and Brizzi believe the manuscript was written onto the papyrus fragment as a writing exercise at either a school or a monastery. And at the very end, ladies and gentlemen, from the comparison with already known manuscripts of this gospel, we know that our text is the earliest Burke's stated. I mean, wow, ladies and gentlemen, that is just a big statement right there to say that the Infancy Gospel of Thomas was first written in Greek, and I should say Korean Greek, because we know all about Hellenization was going on around this time, ladies and gentlemen. And I brought this into my video also. And if you don't know anything about Greek Hellenization, it'll just open up your mind to see what was really going on. So, what I want to say is this goes to my video showing that the Greeks had a handling in the Old Testament. And now this new article brings more light into my statement to what I said in that prior video. So I will show a snippet of that video showing you a little bit of the letters of Orestes, a little bit of the histories of the Greek Septuagint, which is of course the oldest Old Testament written down from what the letters of Orestes is. And when I showed you already that it is pseudo, ladies and gentlemen, again, pseudo. But again, let's get into that video now and to show you a little bit, as you'll see here. And to show you that the Septuagint was used by biblical scholars for a long time, I'll show you this article here. The Septuagint use in the New Testament, and it's from biblical authenticity, as you see here, just to point it out. Christian readers are often puzzled when they read a quotation from the Old Testament in the New Testament, and then in looking up the actual Old Testament, discover that it is somewhat different from the cited quotation. Often this difference is based on the fact that the Old Testament was translated from the standard version of the Hebrew Bible. Not the original, people. Remember, copies of copies. The Mosaic text, which I'll show you a little bit later, whereas the New Testament is citing the same passages as it appears in the early Greek translation of the old, known as the Septuagint. This is where it gets good now here. The Septuagint of the Hellenistic Jews and by the early church, that's deep. Most scholars believe that the Greek translation of the Pentateuch was produced by Jewish scholars in the mid-3rd century BC in Alexandria, Egypt. The rest of the Old Testament, along with some other books, including the Apocrypha, was completed during the following century or two. Some parts of the Septuagint reflect a more literal approach to translation, while others provide a freer rendition. Some portions are also more skillfully translated than others. Sometimes the Septuagint terms begin with a Hebrew text that differed. I thought we weren't supposed to change anything. Remember earlier that they said that if they change anything, they put a curse on it. But I tell you, people, I digress. Text that differs slightly from the standard Masoretic text of the Hebrew Bible. Bam. Right there, people. So you can see this was used. This was one of the basis Old Testaments that they used. And like I just explained earlier, all of this is in question. All of this is in question. Things just doesn't add up, people. Watching all of that, it is clear to see, and please watch the whole video in its entirety. I promise, because I couldn't get everything in there because it's a long video and there's so much material. But without a shadow of a doubt, I showed you where all these Bibles came from and where it started out. And that with Ptolemy II ordaining this work from the Levites and ordaining 70 of them to write this down, it doesn't add up. But then all the Bibles that we have today all started by using the Greek Septuagint, plain as day. And if you want more about the early Gnostics, because you could be like, oh, well, they were Gnostics, so can't go with them. But I tell you, these were the early Christians around the time before it was really even called that, to be honest with you. And the book I have here, The Refutations of All Heresies by Hippolytus of Rome. And this man goes in with mostly all the Gnostics at this time and giving his accounts of them. So I would say this is a good read if you want to learn more about the Gnostics. But anywho, I just wanted to get I had to show this article. It came across my view, and I was just like, wow, more evidence showing with the Greeks having a handling with the Old Testament and the New Testament, which was written in Greek. But the Hebrews were supposed to be around this time. Come on, people. You have to do the research. But anywho, what do you guys think about this video? Get into the comment section. Let's talk about it. What do you guys think about this being the oldest? Of course, Apocrypha. I'll give you guys that. I will say that because I know I know in the comments that's gonna be coming for me. You guys are gonna be coming for me. But the Old Testament and the New Testament being written down in Greek. This should really be telling to somebody. And there's scholars talking about that. I want to say I'm not the only one. If you do the research, you'll be surprised about how many scholars are talking about this. But anywho, just want to bring this to your all attention. What do you guys think? Again, get in the comments. Let's talk about this. And I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.